Take it up.
Okay. So, tonight's session, titled What's My Job Now That We're Agile? And just wanted to start with asking you to take we're going to have a total of 5 minutes on this. What I want you to, we're going to pass out index cards. Take one each. And just want to write down one challenge that functional managers are facing relative to an agile transformation. So ideally, if you are experiencing going through or have in the past been through an agile transformation, and the functional managers, what kind of challenges did they face? If you haven't had that direct experience, maybe you've talked to somebody or you can postulate something. But the closest to a real-world example that you're willing to talk about. Right? And so I want to take just 2 minutes to write something down, just write down one thing, and then just pair up, and if we have no number, we'll do a triad, and discuss what you're running, what you think people are running into. Take 1 minute each to talk about what you're. We have odd numbers, so maybe we'll triad.
Hi, Bill. What I hear is like, about the self-organization,
Will you do a triad
what
over
am I
there?
supposed to do? How can I manage if I don't know what the only very new to
Okay,
don't have
so
any-
we're
okay.
one on our cards, I see.
That's cool.
Just pick your nose or something.
Not uncommon, unfortunately.
Both pairs had a chance to.
Well started, and then and I have yours.
Oh, good.
Let's take 30 seconds to wrap up.
Verification and tracking of progress. Short for this.
So I think people that worry about the schedule. Once you get started, you can get a little more sense of how your team is doing, how things are doing, but still, for executives that are
I'm actually doing a small agile consultant, so
exactly what they're going to
All right, so we'll have time to work on this further. The second half,
Good at it anyway, yeah.
come back together.
But it's different, yeah, it's different.
We have to stop.
We need to brush it. Okay. So, just want to put up a couple of examples of things that I found, and again, we'll go into them in more depth later. Just wondered, if any of if you came up with these or others. So some of the ideas that I've seen, managers are assigning tasks to teams, telling developers how to design a solution, telling testers which tests to write, setting deadlines. These are some of the agile anti-patterns that I've seen frequently. And the problem is that the managers, this is what they got promoted for. This is what they've known to do, right? They're not bad or evil, they're just doing what got them promoted in the first place. So sometimes functional managers resist agile transformations because they say, well, what's my job? You just eliminated my job. And the reality is that we still need functional managers, we need them more than ever, but we need them doing a different kind of job. We need them to be more of the managers. Now, some functional managers, or maybe all too often in the engineering organizations, become managers because that's the only way they can get a promotion or get more money. And if that's the case, I hope the organization would recognize that, create a career path on the pure technical side, and let them get paid what they're worth for their technical knowledge and become a tech lead or architect or whatever, as opposed to forcing them into this uncomfortable situation. So the rest of this talk is for the engineering managers, the QA managers who really want to be managers. And our hypothesis, Shyam and I have, is that servant leadership is the essence of the skill set that they need to develop to become really true agile managers. So that's what we're going to explore, and have some fun with, hopefully. So I want to talk a little bit about who is a natural servant leader. Okay? So if you find one, they're the best managers ever, okay? If you're lucky enough to have one. Okay? Robert Greenleaf, who wrote the first book related to servant leadership and sort of coined the term, describes a natural servant leader as one who chooses to serve the high priority needs of others first. And that's a natural inclination of true servant leaders. And then leadership emerges from acting on this choice. That's the essence of it. I personally am not a natural servant leader. I stole this term from Lisa Adkins, right, her book. I am a recovering command and control aholic. And most managers who've grown up in this industry prior to Agile, I think you find that to be the case. Okay? But as I embraced Agile, and as I trained people about Agile, and then they told me that I was an Agile empath, and that I was holding on to my command and control behaviors, I had to go through a very conscious activity to change my style. And what we want to do is give you skills that if you're either a manager or coach or scrum master, to help your functional managers achieve that. So the way that I've tried to do it is encouraging others to do the best they can and celebrate their accomplishments, but there are other ways as well. So what I'd like to do, any questions at this point? Any discussions?
Should we laugh at your jokes very loudly or subdued?
So, to start to give you a sense of what constitutes a servant leader, I've taken some from history. Some of these people you will obviously know, Mandela, King, Gandhi. There's a discussion about whether Gandhi qualifies or not, but that's a different topic. And I think you can readily see that these were individuals who put the high priority needs of others first. It's pretty obvious. Who are those two funny guys in the middle? The first guy is named, I believe, Walcott, was the Quaker who walked from plantation to plantation in the South, speaking to other Quakers to convince them to give up slavery. Because Quakers, believe it or not, in the early part of the country's history, held slaves. And it was by his persuasiveness and his perseverance that he actually got the entire Quaker community to absorb that. And he committed himself to that energy. The guy in the middle is the only one that's probably still alive. That's Paul Farmer. Anybody know Paul Farmer?
I do. Yes.
Okay. So Tracy Kidder, the author of Soul of a New Machine, wrote the book Mountains Beyond Mountains, which is about Paul Farmer. Absolutely fabulous book. He's a doctor from Mass General who early in his career became aware of the poor state of the health system in rural Haiti and went down there and established hospitals in rural Haiti and just incredibly increased the health of that population. He spread that idea to Lima, Peru, where he helped cut off a significant amount of antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis. He's working in Africa, working in Russian prisons, and he's established Partners in Health, which is a nonprofit volunteer organization headquartered in Harvard Square. Paul Farmer told me that it's easier to get into Harvard Medical School than to get an unpaid internship at Partners in Health. So, and it turned out my daughter, so.
See, one of the common recurring themes that you would see across all these figures that you have noticed is they do not have formal organizational authority. Okay, most of their ability to lead comes from their ability to influence because of tremendous personal qualities that they possess and the service orientation that they have. So that's one of the things that I want to bring to the attention of you.
And that's exactly that they didn't start out looking to lead. Right? That wasn't their goal. Their goal was to serve others. Their goal was to undo a wrong, to to meet those needs of other people, and out of behaving in that manner, they naturally became leaders. They didn't seek leadership. And that's the other challenge for people who, as managers, we started out seeking leadership. And then some of us decided to try to become servant leaders, and that's the hard transition. So I want to quickly go through some attributes of, how do you know a servant leader when you see one, or what are the things you need to focus on if you want to develop those skills. So here we've got a picture of healthcare workers in the middle of the Ebola crisis, and that's obviously meeting other people's high priority needs. Courage is a key attribute of a servant leader, because you can be taking a lot of risks. And they are a risk taker, so courage and risk taking goes hand in hand. So hopefully this image doesn't scare away managers too badly. Sometimes it's what it's like.
Again, this is an anti-pattern in the sense that managers typically are orientation is to minimize the risk, while servant leaders tend to operate in zones that are tend to be very highly risky, or at least it's perceived that way.
They're visionaries. It takes people like Steve Jobs to envision a world that is informed by focus groups. Henry Ford said, people would have asked for a faster horse than a car. Right? And in the 3 or 4 industries that John disrupted, it was having a vision that nobody else could have done. Listens for understanding. So, psychoanalytic couch, that's one of the ways in which you're expected to really listen to get to the deep meaning. And I think Covey has really hit the nail with this, in that most people do not listen with the intent to understand. Right? We're always listening, and while we hear the first 3 or 4 words, and we're formulating our response. Right? We're forming the counter proposal before we've really understood what people are saying. So it's not just listening, but it's listening for deep understanding.
So this is actually really good. The challenge, I think, some folks who might want to exhibit more servant leadership is oftentimes in discussions in corporate settings. If you don't reply first, you may never get your thought across. The pace of conversation tends to eliminate. I mean, they can still have the intent to understand, but then they'll never get a word in edgewise sometimes.
That's true in some organizations, and the organizations that foster servant leadership make sure there's a way to open that space. One of the things that I've sometimes am able to do is consciously bite my tongue, because I know that I can overrun a conversation so easily. And I consciously wait for other people to have their say, because sometimes people say what I'm going to think, and that's great, the idea's out there. Sometimes they come out with something that's even better, so I don't even have to say it. Right? And sometimes, just let them have their say, and then finally there's space for me. And so I am most effective when I limit the number of things that I say and try to make the things that I say most valuable. And again, it's hard in some corporate settings. It's who speaks the first, who speaks the loudest, who speaks the fastest that gets all the airspace. But sometimes they're not necessarily respected; they're just tolerated.
Yeah, I think what I was alluding to is it's the fear that someone who might want to become a servant leader has to overcome that fear that that is going to happen.
Yes, you absolutely. It's one of there are lots of fears, and that's one that you have to overcome. Absolutely. So. Hopefully by now you've been to enough of our meetings or know enough about Agile to know we believe multitasking is evil. So a good servant leader prioritizes, but it's easy to prioritize all the stuff that you have to do, but you need to be able to decide what you're not going to do. And that's consistent with the Agile principle of simplicity. The art of deciding what not to do is key. That's what we're referring to here in prioritization, not just coming up with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list, but figuring out that below number 3, stop thinking about it. accepts and empathizes, never rejects. Again, as smart, fast people, managers are very quick to process and say, oh, that'll never work, right? Or, you know, step on the ideas or whatever, as opposed to pulling out and getting people to build on those ideas. And recognizing that if you let people chew on an idea, they might come to a better solution. And that's a key aspect of a servant leader. Excellent servant leaders have foresight. that they can see the unforeseen. In some cases, it's almost a mystical power. You wonder how they do it. But the best of the servant leaders have that foresight. And they create awareness. You've got all these awareness campaigns, breast cancer and all that other stuff. But they create awareness of issues. They create awareness of what's important to the organization. They create awareness of values. And they create opportunities for autonomy. So we don't tell people which path to take there. We hopefully give them enough information or some boundaries that make it likely that they're going to succeed. But the more opportunities for autonomy the servant leader creates, it feels like you're giving up power, but you're enabling your organization, your team, to do great things. And they are persuasive. I have a dream. All right, so now you get to do the rest of the work. I just get to observe, and Shyam and I have fun. We do have a hard deadline that we're out of here at 6:45. And what I'm going to ask you to do is form into teams of 3 or 4 people. Probably should have 3 teams here. And we've got a whole bunch of supplies here. We've got Legos, we've got pipe cleaners, we've got clay, we've got markers. We'd like you to just pick some of the supplies and depict a scene. Consider, look, and it should be driven by the issue that you wrote on the card initially. So pick one, or 2 or 3. Pick one of those ideas, and imagine a future state where the manager who's exhibiting this challenge has transformed into a servant leader. And show how their servant leadership styles changes the challenge you selected. You can do it with paper, just in drawings and pictures. You can do it with 3D, with clay, with pipe cleaners, with all sorts of little figures here and the Legos. And have fun. And we're going to do this for 15 minutes, and then we're going to have each team share their creation. Okay? So have fun.
We're gonna try to make it stick figures. So what problem are we gonna tackle? What are we gonna do?
Well, it probably isn't, but based on our these are easy to look.
I think we should they're like their job is
We've got lots of them, maybe we should.
What's happening, what's the problem, right, what's the problem that you see? Do you have an idea? Do you work in a social
Based on
environment
our
where there's agile implementation or?
solution.
What's that?
Okay.
Attention to it.
This is a very difficult conversation because you don't,
Okay, so we're gonna like make
you
a
don't have a
diorama
sense
type
of
thing here?
functional managers
No.
problems, or
Well,
do
I feel
you?
like,
You just didn't have the card. Right.
Got clay.
The one magazine that had all those masks,
Yeah,
all
but
the
I'm the only one who will
veterans
talk, so that's
made
it.
masks.
No, might not.
That's my job. How can I manage
more
them if
testing
I don't know
to
what
do
they're
this.
doing?
Does that look like a guy?
That's supposed to be a halo?
Well, it's supposed to be a head.
Just wanted to make sure I understood, yeah, okay.
That's a better head, right? You know, maybe we do need the Lego guys.
No horns.
Huh?
That's actually a positive thing.
Well, which one do you think lends itself to a visual representation of a solution?
No, none of them very well, right?
Right, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's probably right.
Okay, so that's great, what do
Yeah,
you
that's all the
imagine
same.
things like that would be?
Well, strategic thinking, future planning. At the moment, just taking up your challenge.
Okay, my guy is spring loaded.
Monitoring changes in.
Yeah, all those are about scheduling.
I have a spring loaded manager.
Becoming more strategic.
Cosmic pipelines.
Planning.
Let's see, blue, brown.
It's a perfect job, because the functional manager never has time for that.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanna add, Bill? We don't want me to not be hidden.
So I guess he's springing into action. This feels more like input.
One of the things I'm thinking of.
Sort of like,
Yeah.
sort of like that. Remember there was a guy
They
there
could,
who came and talked about wiki management.
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately, these guys are
they
missing the bodies too, so at least one more thing. We can
and also.
figure something out.
I was gonna make blue jeans.
With the
And how do you make
intention.
it smart?
Yeah, his main point is that the organizations have to change with the technology and processes that are becoming
Well, technology
predominant
processes, but also the people. You get smarter people than back in the 20th century where you have experts who are the bosses and they tell all the worker bees how to do the work. It's now
This is not my best work.
moving in the other direction and having the smart worker bees do the work. And it's the servant manager who tries to orchestrate and pulls it all together.
Which I think is which you just said is a really good summary.
Yeah. So I think, yeah,
There's our team right
here's our
there.
team. You have
What do the leaders represent, like desks maybe, or?
I'm just trying to make a circle,
Remember,
pretending these are other people too.
Okay, cool.
We're only gonna have 4 people, but
Hey, give me
it's
some
really
green.
8 people.
What would you like?
green.
That's a good
I'm
question.
gonna try to make a gumby. Remember that?
I remember Gumby.
Maybe these things I'm working on.
I'm really admiring this, that you thought to make a stand. Really cool. I never thought of that
This-
at all.
Wow, that's really.
Yeah.
impressed with the stand list, the built-in stand on that blue bit.
That requires talents
Okay.
to do that.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
That's
that's.
your
All we need is a
phone.
head.
I did the
Head?
A head.
I can get- Oh, this one's
Yeah,
gonna
that's what I'm
have.
saying,
like
that's very cool.
We'll give you a red.
What do you think of there, bud? What are you gonna make?
Yeah,
You can capture
Yeah,
an
leave it.
visual? He's making a,
Okay,
No, well, actually, this missing part.
there we go.
well, all of us are missing a few parts.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, this is
So,
the guy.
if you've got a team,
the guy would know
people have to
guy
not,
who's trying to lift it.
if the culture is not one of working together,
Okay,
how do you?
all right.
Yeah, but how are we gonna get him to grab on?
So, I got an abstract idea for you that's really
No,
gonna
this
fit
won't
here and
fit,
work
he's
out.
got a nap differently.
Oh, okay, let's see what
We are
we
learning
can
a lot about
do.
making figures with the.
Coming
Oh, no,
right
I'm
out of
sorry,
different
it
one,
worked,
different, you know,
Worked.
some valuable skills.
I like the idea of doing the feet thing and having the freestanding, but then.
I don't know, I guess the
Pat
idea
likes
I'm trying to
the,
convey
use
is
of a
how
Lego
do
stand.
you,
Can you do that through a reward?
I think if they're gonna hold it, it's amazing you got that one to balance.
You know, make sense of chaos. Right?
Has a nice wide stance.
How can you organize all of that?
It's easier to use the Lego.
Right? Here's the guy thinking.
this guy is bogged down
Because
the
he's a
old
nat-
way.
There we go, the metaphor of being stuck in the clay.
Okay, in
That's
terms of the
compound.
future,
Yeah.
in terms of the
It's
future.
actually a compound, yeah.
He's
That's
examining
exactly, so I'm gonna wipe my hands.
Here is really.
Okay.
possibility.
You can explain that, okay, all right, I'll let you explain that one.
Oh, yeah, my unused, I have an unused one here, so.
That's all right, they don't know the word.
How'd they know?
Okay, so we have
Yeah,
spring
you can
loaded, we
actually
have
make some of it.
bogged down, and then we have the onlookers.
Yeah, the team, the Agile team, this is the manager. Oh, he's dark.
That's good, I like that.
So
Did
this
you
is the
reset?
manager first.
I did.
He's
Then
building
he
a
gets
mountain
the
or
team's
building a
buy-in,
building looking
and
over it.
then
He's
Right, in terms of the anticipation.
scheduling commitments. Exactly.
Okay, that's, I like that, very good. I would never.
If you believe that, we got a bridge fund
Do some more. So is that a decent narrative?
That's fine. Managed to
Oh,
it.
yes, I see a diorama here, you know.
He's made.
It's still a vision already now.
Okay.
He's done. He's setting a little assistance.
Oh, I see, geez.
Okay, all right,
That's about it.
So you're done?
all right.
Yeah.
Hey, what management
We'll,
means?
we'll have 2.5 minutes instead of the
Very
whole,
good, that was very good.
All right, we're gonna call this a 2.5.
But you're open to it.
Yes, can be.
Well, we cut it a little short, just to give you some time to talk about it.
And there's that's the manager, right, or
yeah.
No, actually, no, that's.
the manager is the green monster.
Gotta be flexible,
The
right?
intent is the manager is now part of the circle, not,
And we'll sway together.
you have to be careful, because he's not the lead anymore, he's servant leader, so he's almost like either
All
part of
right,
the
so
team
you
or
wanna
facilitator.
share? Who would like to go first?
He will.
I've been. Oh, come on, let's see if I remember what we talked
The
about.
servant manager promotes other members.
Here's
of
your
the
card, here's your card, if you can read my writing.
I was late, so I didn't have a
Oh,
challenge.
just own it.
Okay, so here we go.
It's our work.
So the issue was, here's this functional manager. It's been, that's a, you know, let's assume it's a he. He's used to, you know, have a team and order and micromanage and has everything under control. Now all of a sudden he becomes involved in the agile space. And of course, he's, you know, giving up a lot as a self-managed team. So the issue is how is he gonna deal with that? All right, so here's what we came up with. We said that we had to present this as an opportunity. The opportunity for this manager now to do things that he didn't have time to do before. In other words, now this person may dedicate some time to strategic thinking, planning ahead, putting together, you know, policies, or looking ahead at changes in the technology that may be, you know, at stake here, and actually have more room for creativity. So here's our abstract visualization of this abstract concept, which is here's the guy, you know, analyzing the different pieces that he needs to work with. He's taking a look at the unknown, the future, and he's already, well, actually, this is some of the obstacles he's looking over, right? Which is doing, you know, the vision aspect. And this is also some work he's already completed. So, but basically what this illustrates is that there's a process where things go from being chaotic to having some sense of formation, and then to a concrete visualization that's actually has a pattern which is red, blue, and yellow. And we'll leave it there because that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
You can go. Who wants to be our spokesman?
You're the man.
Okay, so this was Pavlik's challenge, difficulty in making schedule commitments to outside organizations. So this is a representation of our manager with a 2-ton weight. This is his difficulty because he's got a dysfunctional organization that hasn't embraced Agile. He hasn't embraced being a servant leader. But they go through that effort, and he makes the effort to become a servant leader and to engage his team and support his team. This is his Agile team. This represents being bogged down and kind of hobbled. But eventually they get there. And now the manager, this is just a stand, is spring-loaded to make whatever commitments need to be made to whatever outside organizations, because they're now a well-functioning Agile team, and he's a servant leader. The end.
Great.
Thank you.
Curtain drops. Thanks, Steve.
Number 13?
So, the challenge here was how do you shift from when you're more top-down to smaller teams and collaboration. So the focus here was collaboration. And so what this is supposed to represent is the before picture would be more of a sort of the leader in the front and everybody sort of taking direction. And this circle represents more of a collaborative way to lead the team, this more servant leader manner. If there's anything to add, feel free.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Very good.
Did you guys make the little guys?
Yes,
That's amazing.
I
I love it. We needed some of those here. We didn't have